How do you pick the right filter for the DJI Action 6, especially now with the new adjustable aperture? That's what we are solving in today's video. Because the Action 6 is already a good camera on its own. In most situations, it delivers a great image quality without anything added. But when lighting gets tricky or when you want proper cinematic look, richer contrast, or to control reflections, filters become essential. And now with DJI introducing an exchangeable aperture from 2.6 up to 4, the exposure and motion blur balance works a bit differently than on previous action cameras. So in this episode, I'm going to walk you through the most useful filter types: ND filters, CPL filter, NDPL combos, and even the UV protection filter. I'll show you real examples of how they affect your footage and explain how to match the filter strengths to your frame rate and aperture choice. This video is not sponsored by anyone and is based on my own experience and examples. Before we get deep into technical details, here is something important to get out of the way. DJI's original ND filters are usually the most expensive options, and while they perform well, there is no real advantage to choosing them over more affordable brands. Companies like Freewell, Telesin, K&F have been making high-quality filters for action cameras, drones, and compact systems for years. And in my experience, you can save a lot of money while getting the same or better quality. DJI changed the diameter and the threading of the lens protector on the Action 6, which sadly means that some of the fantastic newer filters I used a lot on the Action 4, 5 Pro and on DJI Nano are no longer compatible. If you want to see my previous footage using newer filters, you can check the earlier episode on the channel. Let's start with the purpose of ND filters. These filters reduce the amount of light entering the camera. That may sound like the opposite of what you want, because cameras usually benefit from more light. But when shooting cinematic video, reducing the light helps achieve the correct shutter speed, and the shutter speed is what creates natural motion blur and more cinematic look. Without ND filter, action cameras almost always crank up the shutter speed to extremely fast numbers, because their sensors are small and need to protect the highlights. That results in footage where motion looks sharp, crisp, and almost frozen. For cinematic visuals, we want opposite, a soft blur or moving subjects that feels organic and smooth. Filmmakers usually base this on the 180-degree rule. It is very simple. Your shutter speed should be double your frame rate. So if you are shooting at 30 frames per second, your shutter speed should be locked at 1/60. If you are shooting at 60 fps, lock the shutter at 1/120, and so on. That's what creates the visual effect our eyes associate with film rather than harsh video. On most action cameras, this was pretty straightforward. You would manually set shutter speed, set ISO, and then add ND filter strong enough to bring the exposure into the correct range. But the Action 6 introduces something slightly more complex: aperture control. The camera now lets you adjust aperture from f2.6 to f4 in manual mode. This may not sound like a huge range, but in bright outdoor conditions, it changes how you balance your settings. A lower f number lets more light into the sensor, while a higher f number restricts the light. So when you set your shutter speed based on the 180-degree rule and lock your ISO to something clean like ISO 100, aperture becomes the deciding factor before you even put ND filter on. I filmed test footage at ISO 100, 25 fps, and a fixed shutter of 1/50, switching between f2.6 to 0.8 and f4. What you can see immediately is that f4 gives the most natural and consistent motion blur. The other apertures still work, but because they allow more light into the sensor, you either need stronger ND filters or you risk losing the smoothness of the motion. So if your goal is a cinematic look, choose the f4 whenever possible in the sunlight and f2.6 or f2.8 in the rest of the situations. Then select the appropriate ND value to get the correct exposure. Now that we understand the settings, let's look at the actual filters you can use. The first category is the snap-on filters, and Telesin and Freewell make some of the most convenient ones for the Action 6. Their filters attach directly over the original lens protector, so you never have to unscrew anything or expose the camera's lens. This is especially helpful if you are filming outdoors, on the beach, in the mountains, or in dusty environment, because every time you remove the lens protector, you risk getting debris inside. Snap-on the filter solves that problem completely. Telesin offers a variable ND filter that goes from ND4 all the way to ND64, and it's incredibly practical if you are filming in manual mode. Instead of swapping filters, you simply rotate the ring until the exposure is correct. If you film sunlight transitions, shadows, fast-changing lighting, or simply want fine control without interrupting your shot, this type of variable ND can save a lot of time. Telesin also sells fixed ND packs, ND8, 16 and 32, and so on. These are perfect for motovlogging or drone-style footage, where your lighting doesn't change much and you don't need to adjust ND strengths constantly. And honestly, one big advantage of fixed ND filters is psychological. If you scratch one, lose one, or break one during adventure, you don't worry much, because the set usually includes backup or at least multiple options. Telesin also includes CPL and UV filters in some of their bundles. The CPL, or the polarized filter, is extremely helpful for reducing reflections from shiny surfaces. If you film around the water, wet roads, after rain, car windows, or anything reflective, a CPL can make the differences between the messy highlight and a clean, controllable shot. The UV filter, on the other hand, is simple but useful. It reduces haze that can minimize sun flares, which the Action 6 is quite sensitive to, especially if you are shooting directly into bright light sources. And the price is fantastic, twice as cheap as the pack from DJI. But what if you want the benefits of ND and CPL together in one filter? That's where Freewell comes in. Freewell has created a dedicated NDPL set specifically for the Action 6, and it includes ND8, 16, 32 and 64 filters. NDPL means that each filter not only reduces light, but also includes a built-in polarized coating. This saves time because you don't have to combine or stack filters. Like Telesin, Freewell's filters snap on directly over the existing lens protector, so they're quick to attach and safe to use. One detail I really like is a tiny polarization marker on each filter frame. You can rotate the filter to match the correct angle of reflection control, and once it's set, you are good to go for the entire shoot unless you are shooting direction changes dramatically. This is extremely useful for the water scenes, boat, kayaking, fishing videos, or filming after rain when road is shiny. Freewell also tends to use very high quality coatings, so the color profile remains consistent across the ND strength. And these filters are almost 50% cheaper than DJI's pack. I will drop the links for both brands in the description below. The biggest advantage of both Telesin and Freewell filters is convenience. You don't remove the original lens protector, you just snap over it. It's fast, clean and safe. For everyday use, for travel, for vlogging, or for shooting in unpredictable environments, this system works extremely well. If you film on a boat, or you ride a car or motorcycle, on a wet road, or if you are filming near reflective surfaces, the Freewell and DPL filters are the ideal choice. If you want speed, simplicity, and the ability to adjust exposure quickly, Telesin's variable filter is extremely handy. I really wish DJI didn't change the size of the filter mount on the Action 6, because I absolutely love the newer filter pack I used on the Action 5 Pro, especially the black mist and the ultra-wide 185 degrees lens. Those filters were incredibly good for cinematic footage and I used them a lot, but unfortunately they can't be mounted anymore. So for now, Freewell and Telesin are the two brands I can confidently recommend for the Action 6.
If you want to practice using ND filters for cinematic footage, in this case, I would always suggest to set the camera into 50 fps with shutter speed 1/100 and using variable filters. Also, don't forget to put ISO to 100 like the lowest level, and using variable filters because they will allow you to correct and adjust the light density much better than using fixed filters. And just keep in mind that if your footage if you're doing your footage, if you're making your video with a fixed camera, for example, to the drone or to the car, you can always reduce the FPS, and in this case, you will have even better motion blur. But if you are walking, especially on uneven ground, the higher FPS and the lower shutter speed will give you better results.
If you have any questions about ND strength, settings, aperture, shutter speed, or specific use cases, feel free to drop them down in the comments and I'll be happy to help. If you enjoyed this video, found it useful, please like and subscribe, and stay tuned because in the next episodes I'll be reviewing more Action 6 accessories and even DJI Action 6 gimbal that I think some of you will be very interested in. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers, bye!